It's Halloween night in Haddenfield, when terror is supposed to be fun.
So do you remember what happened with Michael Myers last time?
Yeah, they locked him up and set him on fire, but then they didn't wait to make sure he was dead.
Yeah, so guess what? He's not.
What?!
You can't kill the boogeyman.
You see, the firefighters got to Laurie's house and immediately went in, even though they usually don't go inside unless they know someone's in there. So when these guys got on scene and realized that the cops in the car were both dead and one's head was used as a jack-o'-lantern, procedure, as well as common sense, dictates that they should have done this. But they don't do that. Instead, this one dude conveniently falls into the basement that Laurie purposely made into a death trap you can't escape.
Well, whoever's in here sure wasn't getting out. Yeah.
But he finds that Michael was able to hide into a fireproof room that she installed for some reason. So Michael kills that firefighter and then goes outside to kill some more.
This creature is the bringer of death. He will never eat. He will never sleep. He will never stop.
And this all happens while Laurie, Karen, and Allison are getting to the hospital because Laurie needs surgery, from getting stabbed.
You're not fine. You had a knife in your fucking stomach.
But while she's in surgery, Karen goes off on her own to be sad. But you'd think that she wouldn't want her daughter who was almost killed out of her sight. And you'd think that the daughter would need some consoling after seeing her friend skewered and finding out that her dad is dead.
He's still alive.
And we also find out that Annie's dad's a guard at the hospital. And his boss must be a real asshole making him work on the anniversary of his daughter's murder.
The compassion's overwhelming, Doctor.
But he has no idea that Michael's out. We know that the police were trying to keep it quiet, but Laurie knew it right away, and she could have easily just made some phone calls to let the other people who were traumatized by that night know. Or maybe she just knew that they would all be together celebrating like idiots.
They are friends with that crazy lady that almost got killed by Michael Myers.
Turns out, they get together every year and just be a buzzkill to everyone trying to have fun, even if it is a crappy open mic night.
I think I'll break off with my girlfriend.
But I think Tommy's hoping that after 40 years and enough alcohol, Lindsay might finally see him in a romantic way and forget that he did this.
What's wrong? Oh, Tommy, stop it.
But he invites Lonnie and Marion to come along too, just so it doesn't look obvious.
Then you rip my clothes off, then we rip Lindsay's clothes off. Yeah, I think I got it.
When did Lonnie see him? I thought that Dr. Loomis scared him away.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
Well, he was hanging out with some other kids when the cops came and told him to go home, but to also watch out for the knife-wielding psycho in a white mask. So the other kids all walk home together, but Lonnie thinks that the best route to go home on his own is right past the house he was just scared away from. So while he's running home, Lonnie falls flat on his ass. And for somebody who is so freaked out that they weren't looking where they were going, he takes a really long time to get up. I mean, he lays there long enough for Michael to slowly shuffle up on him. So he doesn't kill him because it would be way too easy and kind of pathetic.
You are so pathetic. I'm going home. You can figure your own shit out.
So Lonnie lies there hoping that if he can't see Michael, then Michael can't see him. I mean, we already know he's an idiot.
Lonnie Lamb probably won't get out of the 6th grade.
But eventually the police come, and now he can run again. So I guess he wasn't injured. Just stupid. But the cops realize that he just went home. And because this is before all the cop dramas were on TV, they have no idea how to clear a house.
Don't shoot! There's a dead dog in here.
Could have been a skunk. Could have.
This one cop even goes past an open door without checking it to look out the window. The same window he said Michael always stared out. He then sees footprints confirming his suspicion and does nothing.
Do you know what happens to people who come into the Myers home without an invitation?
Michael pops out and kills him. But at least he tries to fight back. But then this rookie comes in and shoots the cop.
Jesus, Frank.
So Michael just leaves because I guess he's scared of guns, but I don't know why he would be. I mean, Loomis shot him 6 times and he doesn't seem to be injured at all. But at least a bunch of other cops just showed up as backup. Since they have him outnumbered and have guns, he just gives up without a fight.
If shooting him does nothing, why would he give up?
It hurts. I have sensitive nipples.
So the rookie cop lies to the other guy and tells him that he killed Michael, so at least he's happy before he dies. And we find out that the rookie cop turned out to be Frank. You know, the guy the doctor stabbed and then ran over to make sure he was dead. Well, he's not dead.
I should have guessed.
See, Cameron was walking around calling Oscar, who is dead, and he was hoping that he's with Allison because he can't call her since he threw her phone in the party tapioca as punishment for catching him with another girl.
What, dude? Have some discretion, alright?
Well, he looks up at the road and sees Frank. So he runs to him and screams for help, but nobody seems to be around. It also seems that he's forgotten about the cell phone he was just using.
Too young to give a shit, too drunk to remember?
But Frank wakes up and scares the crap out of him, and immediately is like,
And I'm the one that's gonna get him.
and Cameron's like, look buddy, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you and I both know you aren't doing shit.
What the fuck?
So after an ambulance shows up, he finally remembers that he has a phone and calls his dad for a ride, who he knows is at a bar. And apparently his dad and all his friends just go to a bar and tell their story so they can get free drinks.
Hey man, let me buy you guys some round. Appreciate it, man.
Cheap piece of shit.
So they're feeling pretty good about now. So some other cops get to Laurie's place and find all the people dead. So they decide that they need to start looking for him, but he's already made it to the neighbors.
What the fuck does he want?
Who gives a shit? Call the cops!
So Michael's in the bathroom that's on their porch, in case the mailman needs to take a shit. But when the old man sees him, he locks him outside on the patio, but Michael just comes through the window. And the woman who lives there might be just as paranoid as Laurie, because she has way too many locks to open before Michael comes in. So she grabs a knife. Michael's like, I was gonna use that. So he grabs a fluorescent bulb, and she just sits there while he comes over and slowly stabs her. He then brings her husband into the kitchen and stabs him with all the knives.
Why would he do that?
Well, we know he likes to pose the bodies, but come on, they all can't be masterpieces.
That's some artistic shit.
Well, at least until he finds one he likes.
I like your knife, I'm keeping it.
That was my favorite knife.
Back at the bar, everyone's finding out about the murders in town, and even though they know about the gas station murders, the bus crash, and now these murders, they're still not sure if it's Michael.
We don't even know if he was on the bus.
Tommy, you're so paranoid.
Tommy thought it was him when it was just the gas station murders, but everyone else is like, people get murdered around here all the time. Stop worrying, it's not that guy.
I've lived here my whole life. This was a safe place and now it's not anymore.
But apparently since the news only has his face and hasn't said his name, there's still a chance it's just another psycho killing people in Haddenfield on Halloween. The news is even drawing parallels between his last murder spree. They also interview a child with no parents in sight and inform everyone that his babysitter was killed. So I really hope that her parents had the TV off. So this couple noticed that all the murders took place in homes on their street. So they're like, wow, it is clearly not safe to be out and we should go back to our home on that street. But since they're super worried about safety right now, this dude immediately ditches his wife.
What's wrong with you?
Because he's got a bad habit of forgetting his stethoscope.
I need it. Let me get it. I'll be right back.
And she is so freaked out that she doesn't even notice her windows are fogged up. And even if she did notice, she doesn't check the back seat until she gets in. And of course, there is somebody in the back seat, but I'm really not sure how they got in considering we see her unlock the car.
He's in the backseat. Michael Myers is in the backseat. Go look.
Go look. Hell no.
So she runs back and tells everybody there's somebody in her back seat. And Tommy's like, okay, this is your moment, Tommy. Lindsay thought you were a pussy for the last 40 years. It's go time. So knowing that Michael Myers has survived being shot multiple times,
Who had a power beyond any mortal man.
he grabs a baseball bat. So a big group gets together and they're all heading out to the parking lot. Yeah, let's get him. But then they realize that he might have supernatural powers, so they just kind of back off and let the dude with the baseball bat go on his own. Like, oh, we got you back, bro.
Nobody believes me.
And as Tommy approaches the car, the driver needs to find the right radio station so he can drive off. Which, of course, nobody anticipated the running car would do that, but it immediately crashes.
For God's sakes, he can't drive a car!
Turns out it was the other escaped nutjob.
Well, everybody else on that bus could have been just as dangerous as Michael.
2 of them were checking their emails at a local library.
Most of them minor offenders, mental patients.
Just found 3 of them holding hands chasing butterflies at a flea market off the 220.
We then go to Michael's old house, where we meet Big John and Little John. And the older and taller one is Little John, so I can only assume that they're referring to penis size.
I'll check.
But some kids prank them, and they give them a history lesson on Michael, and they don't give a shit. They just wanted the candy.
We're not even scared.
So Frank finally gets to the hospital, and the cops question Allison and Karen. But these ace detectives don't take their clothes as evidence, and just let Karen walk around in that stupid Christmas sweater.
My suggestion is termination. Death. It's the only solution.
Karen tells him that he's totally obsessed with her mom, and now her husband's dead, and we're in danger because of her.
She put us in his path.
But Allison is telling him it's the doctor's fault they were in danger.
How did he know how to find your grandmother?
They communicate the precise location by shaking their butts.
And doesn't bother to say that the doctor attacked Frank, not Michael. Guess she figures the doctor's dead anyway, and she sees Frank's alive, so he'll probably tell him. They're also told that Michael's still alive, and Karen tells the cops to stop looking for the murderer because she is 100% dead-ass sure he is just gonna show up to the hospital to kill Laurie.
It's not about you.
At the same time, Cameron finds Allison and invites her to go on a boogeyman hunting date, and she doesn't need to worry about being out past curfew since his dad is gonna chaperone. Chaperoning taking his kid to murder a mental patient. Total father of the year.
You fucking dummy, you brought your kid to the belly of the beast.
And she's all, that is the most romantic thing anyone has ever done. Instead of saying,
Shot him in the face. Burned him alive.
And he's still alive, but you have guns, I'm sure we'll get him this time. Karen comes over, and Cameron tells her that her daughter's gonna join the angry mob.
She what? I'm going with them.
Fuck that.
And she says, no, you can't go hunt a person with your boyfriend. Now please, just go sit next to your grandmother, who is definitely 100% the person he wants to murder tonight.
Totally.
So Allison goes into Laurie's room, but only to give her the knife she stabbed Michael with earlier. And then she meets up with Cameron and all these other people who have been drinking all night.
I had a reputation.
Right.
And I guess everyone's using the hospital as a recruiting ground because everyone just starts showing up for no apparent reason.
Why would I tell her to come here? Why am I here?
The couple from earlier are actually medical professionals.
I'm a doctor, my husband's a nurse.
And they think that the best way for them to help is to go out hunting instead of, helping the injured people inside.
Never fired a gun before.
But it might be because he doesn't want to see his creepy boss.
I thought it was gonna be like a holiday pizza party with a bunch of coworkers, not an orgy.
With a punch, Dr. Mathis in the face.
And because the small army that's in the hospital parking lot wasn't enough, Tommy goes out recruiting for more people.
Now listen, boys, there's strength in numbers.
While Lonnie and the kids just drive around telling people to go back inside. Tommy's trying really hard to seem tough, but...
Man, I had an altercation with Mars about an hour ago, but he escaped.
Lindsay, Marion, and the couple see some kids on a playground, so Lindsay goes out alone to tell them to go home.
There's strength in numbers.
And it's the same little shits that pulled a prank on the Johns, but one of them is missing. And they don't believe Lindsay because the Johns scared him earlier. But they've actually been seeing Michael for a while, but thought it was totally okay for their friend to go off on their own. But then they see him again, sitting really far away next to Lindsay's car.
I'm not a pervert!
Is that Dennis's mask?
So obviously everybody inside the car is doing a very good job of keeping an eye out. And that's when the kids finally understand that they're actually in danger, drop everything, and run away. But Marion eventually notices, and I guess Michael recognizes her, because he pulls the same moves on her that he did 40 years ago. Marion shoots at absolutely nothing, but manages to break windows, making it easier for Michael to grab them. And the couple just wants to run, but can't. And while this is happening, Lindsay collects all the loose bricks from the playground, because, those are always just laying around. And when Marion has Michael dead to rights, she doesn't realize that she ran out of bullets stupidly shooting the windows. So once Michael's stabbed Marion enough times that she's dead, this dude finally remembers he has a stethoscope. But that doesn't work out too well. And after they're both dead, his wife comes back with a gun. But Michael doesn't seem too worried about that.
Gimme. I shot this shit before.
So Lindsay comes up and hits him with the bag of bricks.
Big tough buddy boys got throw bricks, huh?
But he just starts strangling her.
Little Lindsay Wallace won't know where to hit her.
But she gets away and knows all she has to do is run and not fall down. And for once, someone can successfully hide. And Michael's like, that's why I like killing people in houses. They always forget how to open doors. So Lonnie, Allison, and Cameron get to Lindsay's car at the same time as Tommy, and they decide to split up into groups of 2 to go look for him.
There's strength in numbers.
They immediately start yelling for the one person still alive.
Lindsay!
Lindsay!
And I guess they realize they aren't supposed to know she's dead yet, so they start yelling for Marion too.
Marion!
Marion!
And just like us, they didn't bother to learn the couple's names. They find their bodies, but not Dennis's. Maybe he didn't have enough mass, so he just threw his body in a bush. But my bet is that a skunk took him.
Could have been a skunk. Could have.
Lindsay tells him that she saw his face, and they act like this is a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
That is a very big deal.
But any of them could have gone to the loony bin and seen him in person for the last 40 years. And Allison already saw it earlier that night in the car.
He is so sexy, it's a little too much to take.
What she should have said is, if you take his mask off, it distracts him, and you can get away. But this is the second time he stopped strangling somebody to fix his mask.
If you don't, it's your funeral.
So Tommy brings Lindsay to the hospital, where the staff are seriously overwhelmed.
Officers and medical staff from Russellville and Eaton County for support, but no confirmation.
Too bad 3 medical professionals just died because they thought they would be more useful hunting the boogeyman than doing their fucking jobs. But Laurie and Frank are on drugs and flirting. Until Tommy comes in and cockblocks them. I mean, what's the point in letting 2 injured people know that this dude is still alive? Way to kill the mood, Tommy.
I mean, you can't walk all over town breaking hearts. Hey, all right?
Listen.
He then goes and gets all the people at the hospital worked up, thinking that they can kill Michael.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight! Evil dies tonight! They took our yabs!
And now that Laurie knows Michael's still alive, she thinks she can kill him too. So she steals Frank's painkillers and beelines to the hazmat trash, guessing that somebody would have moved the bloody knife wrapped in a bloody shirt to the chair and that Karen would throw it away. So over this huge crowd, Tommy, Laurie, and Karen all hear this guy meekly asking for help. They also hear a few people murmur that they think it's Michael. Now, considering that he's talking,
and by all accounts has not uttered a word,
that should be your first big clue it's not him. Then you have the fact that he's not towering above everyone and murdering them. But none of that stops him from chasing this little hobbit of a man throughout the hospital. Laurie and Karen actually get a good look at him, realize it's 100% not him, and for some stupid reason, don't use the intercom at the nurse's station right next to them to let everybody know. But they probably wouldn't have believed Karen anyway because of her stupid fucking Christmas sweater.
So my mom's a liar.
So this bloodthirsty-ish mob is chasing this dude everywhere. Karen ends up locking this guy in a hallway where nobody can get to him, but because he doesn't want the crowd to get him, he just goes ahead and jumps out the window. Or maybe somebody just didn't have their shoelaces tied.
Mr. Tovoli here has a fixation for such things.
And even after seeing this dude, Tommy still thinks it could be Michael. The sight of him across the street freaked you out back then. If you would have saw this dude, you would have just thought it was another kid. So I'm not sure how anybody thinks these people look alike. So now this entire crowd is responsible for this man's death because they thought he was somebody else. And I can just see these people being all like, well, I didn't know. You'd think that they'd want to be 100% sure before they try to murder somebody.
Well, you should.
Frank tells Laurie that Michael isn't obsessed with her, and it's all his fault that Michael's still alive. See, after killing his coworker, Frank stopped Dr. Loomis from shooting Michael point blank in the back of the head. Everyone else wanted to kill him, but since this one rookie didn't want to, they're like, maybe he's right.
Hey, nobody's getting anybody. Stop scaring each other.
So while the town was out killing fake Michael, real Michael went home. He knocks on the back door, but Little John takes too long to answer, so he runs around to the front.
Why do they do it? Goddamn kids.
But then he sprints to the back again and sneaks in.
Someone's in our house, and it's not a child.
And Big John is taking this very seriously and strips down to his underwear for a fight. He even puts down his weapon that would give him some distance between his attacker and picks up a knife that's used to cut soft cheeses.
Oh, I'm so scared.
But see, these guys actually watch cop shows because they do a better job of clearing this house than the cops did before. But apparently not good enough because Michael gets Big John. And Little John could have escaped, but he goes and ruins Michael staring out the window.
What's the deal with the staring?
Oh, the cop that died in 78 said that as a kid, Michael would just stare out his sister's window. So he probably killed her because she wouldn't let him do that anymore. So apparently all these people have died because they're getting in his way of going home and staring out a window. But in the first story, he stared at Laurie out the front door, not the window. And if that's all he wanted, he could have just stayed there all day, and Dr. Loomis would have found him when he showed up with the sheriff.
Well, if that's all he wanted, why would he go into random houses and kill people?
Well, just because he wants to go home doesn't mean he can't make some pit stops along the way. So Lonnie figures out that that's where he's going, but instead of calling everyone, they decided to just go by themselves.
There's strength in numbers.
Well, why haven't they run into any of the other people that are supposed to be looking for Michael?
Because everybody else is at the hospital. But Tommy's convinced Karen, pretty much by being wrong about everything, that she needs to come out and hunt with them. So when they get there, Lonnie finally realizes that taking your kid to find a serial killer is not good father-son bonding time. So he goes in alone.
There's strength in numbers.
And now that he's sure a crazy psycho killer is in there, he finally gets the courage to go inside.
Idiot.
He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you, Lonnie. He's gonna get you.
The kids don't want him to go alone, but they don't bother to say, hey, why don't we call and wait for the other people Tommy recruited?
Don't get murdered, Lonnie.
But then they hear a shot.
Get away from me! Leave me alone!
And immediately go inside. And surprisingly, these kids do a better job of clearing the house than the cops did too. They find the Johns, and we find out that Michael is crap at photo recreations because he switches their positions. I'm sorry, but it's really hard for me to believe that Michael went through their record collection to stage this, because this was not playing earlier. And Allison forgets about Cameron's dad because she wants the knife instead of the gun. But Cameron does remember his dad and goes off alone.
There's strength in numbers.
He finds him, but before he can figure out how Michael got him up there, he's attacked. But then Allison remembers the whole let's stay together thing right before Cameron gets stabbed. And it's a good thing she grabbed the knife because he gets the gun away from her like really easy. But then she stabs him and is like, so how do you like it? Which of course he doesn't, so he throws her down the stairs and breaks her leg. So Cameron takes the time that the psycho is distracted to take out the knife and bleed more instead of, shooting him. And it doesn't work out too well for him. But now that they're both injured, Michael gets to play a little.
That ought to kill him.
And Allison is all,
Let me get me, motherfucker!
but Michael's like, you need to wait your turn. Kids are so impatient these days. He then starts down the stairs, even slower than usual, because there's no rush. Her leg's broken.
Bonnie and Clyde with a twist. Classic. You know how it ended, right? The story ended a little
Yes,
bit.
hopefully.
Yes, with the bullets and the bleeding.
Yeah.
So he just kills Cameron. But see, he had to stop and kill Cameron to give Karen enough time to save Allison. Which she does, and she's the only one to single-handedly knock Michael Myers flat on his ass. So apparently all those years of training are actually paying off. But this badassery is completely ruined by her stupid fucking Christmas sweater.
Who would wear this?
Didn't she leave with Tommy?
He's played by his own game. The element of surprise. So he thinks you're going one place, then you pop up someplace else.
But when he's down, she doesn't go to her daughter to check on her. Instead, she takes his mask, figuring he'll just get back up.
Your mask? Come and get it!
So she's like luring him outside with the mask, and he's totally taking the bait. She takes him a whole block away where the angry mob's waiting.
It's a trap.
It's a trap!
And everybody finally has the idea, let's all attack at once. But they are nice enough to let him put his mask back on.
It's Halloween. Everyone's wearing a mask.
And apparently these people just showed up with whatever weapon they could find.
Rocks, belts, pipes, cans, bricks, bats, clubs, chains, bottles, knives, guns.
But if this really happened in the Midwest, at least a tenth of these people would have their AR-15. And another 50% of these people would have borrowed the other 10%'s backup AR-15s.
You have a permit for all these?
Some of them.
And it would have been an absolute bloodbath of them shooting each other on accident.
Just because your intentions are good doesn't mean things always work out.
So this one guy, after having his gun arm severely slashed open, still has the strength to pull the trigger multiple times. But I guess they decided as a rule that once he's down, they can only hit him instead of stabbing or shooting him. And Michael looks really weak, so Karen takes his knife and stabs him in the back. And Tommy's like, whoa, that is a low blow. Totally against the rules. So she goes back to check on Allison, and the cops and ambulances are there. But none of these people care what's happening a block over. And that's because they're going to let old Sheriff Brackett get the kill.
When they arrested Michael that night, I was telling my wife that my daughter was killed, so I wasn't there to put a bullet in his brain like we should have.
But it turns out, all Karen did was give Michael his knife back.
You get hurt, hurt him back. You get killed, walk it off.
Tommy Dog gonna fuck him up.
So now it's Tommy's turn to fight, and his plan of attack goes completely backwards.
Rip his mask off, look him in the eye. Swing on Huckleberry here. Say night-night.
Well, even though it's a crime scene, Karen goes up to his window, and Michael comes up behind her and stabs her for taking his spot, and disrespecting his favorite holiday with her stupid frickin' Christmas sweater.
It's your own fault, and I don't feel a bit sorry for you.
And then nobody sees him up in the window, so Laurie is gonna be pissed.
She will fuck you up.
So now she's gonna hunt him down?
Well, of course. What do you expect her to do? Buy a house in town with Allison where Lindsay just randomly comes over every once in a while like it's a bad sitcom?
I don't like that story.
Oh, you didn't. Please tell me you didn't.
Underestimate no one.
I need some good people. People aren't afraid to get their hands dirty.
You all need to hit the subscribe button now.
Now listen, boys, there's strength in numbers.
Halloween's over, kids.